What's up, YouTube, and welcome to my video of pickups for the month of February 2017. This month, just like last month, is pretty light on pickups, and I think a lot of that is just due to me not doing a whole lot of travel, at least for vacation purposes. So, got some stuff that I've been looking for sure this month, but not really anything too crazy as far as like a mind-boggling pickup for the month. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started with a couple of the games I got for Sega systems this month. I did get one game for the Genesis, and this was an upgrade to a complete copy of Batman Revenge of the Joker by Sunsoft. I think this is a super cool case on this game, just that it's so bright and very little clutter in the design of it. I also think it's very interesting some of these early Sunsoft cases didn't even feature any screenshots of the game, just another action shot from the comic book or whatever they took that from. So always like to get these. Had a really hard time finding this game complete. I've been looking for an upgrade for several years, so it was really nice to find this very recently. But decent game, and probably not as good as the first Sunsoft Batman game on the Genesis, but it's okay. I got two Sega CD games this month. The first one of these is Battle Core. This one is one of the games designed by Core Design that actually was known for really pushing the system. I haven't had a chance to play this one yet, but I've been looking forward to it. And the other Core Design game that came out for the Sega CD I've really been looking for is Soul Star. I don't have that one yet, but I've heard really good things about that one. So hopefully this one will be decent. I didn't pay a whole lot for this, and it was nice to find in the wild. The other Sega CD game I got is probably a little more uncommon. This was a very late release for the system, and it's a 2-pack. It has Ultraverse Prime, which was some failed comic book, I guess, from the 90s I didn't really read, and Microcosm, which was also available separately. This game was weird in that this 2-pack was the only way to get Ultraverse Prime, but you could tell they probably were planning on releasing it as a separate game originally. It's 2 separate discs in the pack, you get 2 separate manuals, and then it has just like this overlay sheet for the front. So honestly, it could have been a standalone release if they just made a separate back art for Ultraverse Prime. I've heard it's a decent beat-em-up, and I'm kind of interested in checking it out, so we'll see how that one is. Microcosm, haven't really heard too many good things about that one. You can get just the solo release of that one very cheap if you're interested. So, just very surprised to find this game out in the store as well, because I definitely hadn't seen it before, at least in a store. Next we'll talk about some Sony systems, and I guess we'll start off with where I've really been putting a lot of my energy, which is PS1 collecting. As you know, I'm going for a set of the Black Label jewel case variants of the big box games, and I am down to 5 more left for that collection. So very excited to be closing in on the finish line. However, the last 5 are all going to be incredibly hard to get. The first one I got that is part of that subset is super easy to find. This was probably one of the least challenging ones I've been putting off buying, and this is Romance of the Three Kingdoms 4. I can't stand these Koei strategy games that are so heavy on history and slow-paced gameplay, so I will never play this. It's one of the reasons why I just was putting off buying it, but just one more of those I needed as one of the jewel case variants. This other one I got this month, I was way more excited to find. It's, again, something I'm not going to play, but very, very difficult game to find in the jewel case variant, and that is NBA Live 96. I know you're thinking it's an EA sports game, how can that possibly be uncommon? But if you just kind of think back to when you're looking at PS1 games on the shelf and looking at spines, how often have you seen this game? Probably not very often, because this has that double jewel case, and that's what really makes it stand out as an unusual release. Unfortunately, this one's missing the manual, so I'm still kind of looking for a replacement of this, but this is one of those games that doesn't even really pop up on eBay, so very nice to at least find it. Another game I had a way more difficult time finding than I thought I would is this game, Crash Bash. It is probably the least liked of the Crash Bandicoot games on the PS1, but it was the last one I needed, and really had a hard time finding a Black Label version of this that wasn't just torn to crap. Typically kids bought these games, younger kids, and just really beat the discs and game case and manual to hell, and this one's actually in decent shape, so I was glad to find this. Another PS1 game I stumbled on this month that I really had been wanting for quite a while, because it's pretty difficult to get, is the first press version of Dragon Ball GT Final Bout. There was a repress by Atari about 7 years after this came out that is super easy to find. It was a budget release, but this is the original Bandai release that is very low print run. I remember there was a time in the late 90s that this game was like over $100 back then. That this game was probably the most desirable game for the PS1. It's cooled off since then, probably due to the re-release, and maybe people just don't like this game because it sucks. But this game was definitely a touch point of early PS1 collecting, and I really wanted it as part of my collection. Another kind of unusual side release for the PS1 is this, the Roll Cage Limited Edition. It's nothing like a limited edition of today where they put in a ton of stuff in a different box, but you do get slightly different front cover art. And the big thing with this one is it came in this double case where you got a music CD in the package as well, that had all of that late 90s, early 2000s electronica that was, hot on the scene. So the big selling point is that it has music by Fatboy Slim in it. And I thought that was kind of interesting for just a timepiece of what people listened to at that time. While I was getting that, I also recently picked up the sequel to that, which is Roll Cage Part 2. Or Roll Cage Stage 2, excuse me. Haven't really played any of these, but I'm sure they're pretty much like futuristic racing Wipeout type clones, so might be decent. Another one I got that I don't see real often anymore is Tecmo Super Bowl, and just seemed interesting that they made a quasi-sequel to the NES game, so kind of wanted to get it for the PS1, but not really something I'm most likely to play too much. And then the final game I got for PS1 is a clean first release version of PacMan World. Never played this game before, but I obviously like some of the old Pac-Man stuff, so I was interested in trying it out. And I think it has maybe Arcade Pac-Man included in the pack or something with it, so I don't know. Hopefully that'll be decent. Moving on to other PS systems, I got one game for PS2, and that is Nightmare of Jiraga, which is Fushigino Dungeon is the subtitle on that. I don't know. I do like the old Jiraga arcade games. They're very archaic and but fun in an interesting way. Namco made this unusual sequel to a series that most people in the US never got to play, so always wanted to kind of check it out, and it was like $2, so decided to grab it. I got one game for the PS3, again, not something I'm super interested in, but I thought it was a strange variant release. This is Top Gun Wingman Edition, and what I thought was cool about this is that it's a game, but it also includes Top Gun the movie on the Blu-ray disc, and I thought, what a missed opportunity that there weren't more PS3 games like this, where you took some licensed movie game and actually gave you the movie on the disc. I think there might be one other game like this, but I thought it was just, I don't know, just an opportunity of missed technology that we certainly could have seen more of. So maybe with the PS4 that'll come around again, but I thought it was a cool idea at least. I actually got a Vita game this month, and that's very unusual considering I have had a PS TV for about a year now, and I don't actually have a Vita. I hope this game works with it. I haven't actually tried it out yet, but that is Ys Memories of Salsetta or something like that. And I do typically like the old Ys games, so hopefully this one will be pretty good. If this is a Vita-only working game, I guess maybe I need to track down a Vita. So I don't know why I'm so reluctant to buy games for that system, but that's one that was kind of interesting to me, and I think it's a console exclusive. I got 2 more PS4 games this month, and one thing I'm noticing about my PS4 is that the thing I'm playing on it more than anything is pinball games. There are more pinball games on the PS4 than probably the last 3 Sony consoles combined. It's really interesting why that system is such a pinball powerhouse. However, some of these games out there are really, really good, so I definitely celebrate it and keep them coming. This is a Euro-only release, and at least in physical form. You can download this in the US, but this is the Pinball Arcade Season 2. And this one has my all-time favorite pinball machine in it, which is Cactus Canyon. It's just a fantastic machine. If you ever get a chance to play the real thing, I highly encourage it, but this is a nice home port of that actual pinball machine. Has a lot of other great Williams and Gottlieb games on the disc, and definitely well worth picking up if you like the physical versions of these. There are actually 3 more seasons of this that I know they've done as digital downloads, so I'm really crossing my fingers that maybe some of these will get physical releases. One thing I will say is, if you're looking to buy this game from the UK like I did, do not use the vendor gameseek.uk. They are horrible. This game took over 2 months to get to me, and they were very unhelpful in their customer service. So I definitely would say avoid them. There are multiple other sellers that are selling this game. So I don't know how my European fans that watch my videos feel about that company, but as far as an American buying from them, they were terrible. So avoid would be my recommendation. The other pinball game I got for the PS4 I just bought, and I was playing it a few days ago. I actually really like this as well. This is the Stern Pinball Arcade. It uses basically the same front end as the Pinball Arcade series I just showed you, but it's focusing more on modern Stern pinball tables and a couple of their older releases as well. My feelings on the modern Stern machines is they're very cheaply assembled compared to the old Williams machines that were much higher quality. And one thing I actually like about this is playing them at home on a PS4 controller. You don't have that nasty feeling of the cheap quality of the machine, and you can actually enjoy the table design for what it was intended for. So one thing I think is really cool is it has some of their more modern machines like AC/DC on it, which is actually a really good table. And the one thing I thought was very frustrating about this pack is that it has this little blurb on it that says, also includes DLC for Ghostbusters, which is probably Stern's newest and hottest pinball table. I thought that was going to be a cool thing I could add to my add the download to my game as soon as I got it home, and it turns out it's not available yet. So I thought that was very cheesy to advertise that on the front. It does say it in the fine print, but I think that's silly that you would advertise DLC on the cover that you can't even redeem yet. And this game's been out for a few months, so that being said, you know, very cool package otherwise. So we'll move into some Nintendo systems next. I got one game for Super Nintendo, and that is Hook. Obviously not a series I care anything about. However, I was reading about this game that it was developed by the same team at Sony that created Skyblazer, which is a great game for the Super Nintendo. So I was curious based on that. I haven't had a chance to try it. One thing, I almost sent this game back to the seller I bought it on eBay from because they advertised it in like-new condition. I'm going to let you be the judge of that. That is not what I consider like-new condition. So I bitched to the vendor. They ended up giving me half the price just back, and I decided to keep it. But frustrating when sellers can't be honest in their description like that. I'll show you a few Game Boy games. I did get some stuff for my original Game Boy collection this month. And first one of those is Missile Command, which is the standalone Atari port for that system. It's kind of cool. One of the more unusual ones, Psy-Raid by Nextoff. I got Loops, which is a puzzle game you can also get on the NES. Monster Truck Rally? Monster Truck Wars. Whatever. And the last one of these I was very excited to get. I had never seen this game in a store before. It's considered one of the rarest games on the original Game Boy. And that is Jimmy Connor's Tennis. It's one of the very first Ubisoft games that they released in the US. I don't know why this game's so rough to get on Game Boy, but it's also very rare for the original NES. You can get it everywhere for the Super Nintendo, so it's very strange how Ubisoft produced multiple different levels of production for the same basic title. I got one other Nintendo portable game this month, and that is for the DS. It's a long title, Magician's Quest Mysterious Times. It's a Konami release for the DS. Don't really know much about this one. I haven't had a chance to pop it in yet, but I know this game's really gone up in price, so got it at a decent price and decided to grab it. Hopefully it's worth playing. I actually got a couple games for the Atari 2600 this month. That's a system I rarely buy games for, but if I see something interesting, I'll definitely grab it. First one of these is Marine Wars. This is one of the Konami first-party published titles for the system, of which I think there's only 3. Konami came up with their own unique cartridge design, which I think is really cool, and I wouldn't mind getting the 3 games that are part of that subset now as a result. I did play this one. It's kind of like a military-style Frogger, would be the best way to describe it. It's okay. And then the other 2600 game I got is one of the late-release Maroon Label Atari games. I think this came out in like '88. Very late for Atari. It is Sprint Master, and one thing I noticed immediately upon playing it is a straight ripoff of Super Sprint, the arcade game, of which I'm a big fan. So it doesn't play as good as Super Sprint on the NES, but if you want to play the same style of game on Atari, it's worth checking out. And then finally, I got a few oddball controllers for the Atari 2600 this month. The reason I bought all these is they were complete in their original boxes, and I thought worth checking out. So the first one of these is the Video Command. It is a one-handed controller for the Atari, and it actually is modeled on the VIC-20 controllers. I think it's the same company that originally made this. I haven't tried it yet, but I've heard that this actually plays okay, even though it's super weird. It's got this like spongy top piece that you use to rotate for the joystick piece and fire. And then I got not one, but 2 of the Wiko command control joysticks. These I already had a couple of already in my collection, but I really wanted these because they were in the original box and they were in really good condition. Even had the original price of $28.95 on there, which I thought was kind of cool. So that pretty much does it. Hopefully you enjoyed this video of my pickups for the month. Please take a moment, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think, and I will talk to you soon. Have a great day or night, wherever you are.